Well, good morning, Bakersfield, surrounding communities, and everybody watching online on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook Live. This is the Early Bird Special on this 15th day of October. I'm Chris Burdick. That is Sparky. Sparky, good morning.
Good morning.
Let them know what they're in for.
Oh, we got all sorts of stuff. We'll talk about baseball. We'll talk about basketball. We'll talk about football. And we have our Renegade Rob and Kenny Calvin from BC football coming in at 7:30 for our weekly Renegade report. At 8 o'clock, we'll have our waiver wire Wednesday for all you fantasy football players, as well as our boy Mike over at Pro Football Focus sent in his 7 things NFL fans must accept 6 weeks into NFL. You can call or text anytime during the show at 661-842-2000.
And public service announcement as well. I realize Mike isn't the one who writes these things for Pro Football Focus, but I am still waiting for y'all to retract and or at least give the love where it deserves. Look, man, anytime the sports media besides myself talks about Atlanta, it's usually negative. Usually. And Sparky understands this being a Dolphins fan.
It's baseball season. What are you talking about?
But at this point, come on, man. Give them some love. Number 1 defense in the league. Number 2 offense in the league.
Get it over with.
Get it over with and get it out of the way. Everybody deserves one. That's all I'm saying. Just retract what you said. Just sit there and say, you know what? We were wrong. Michael Penix is a dude, and we'll live with it. Everybody's wrong every so often. I say it all the time on this show. I'm wrong all the time. All the time. That's the whole point of sports. But let's talk about some baseball because we saw a masterful performance last night by a pitcher that we haven't seen in a while as the Dodgers beat the Brewers 5-1 to take a 2-game lead over the Brew Crew. And heading back to the Dodgers' home out there in Chavez Ravine, this is probably the best case scenario for you as you had against Philly. This series rather is going 7.
You think so?
I
think
there's something.
Sweep 'em, man.
You think this is done?
It's looking like it. I mean, obviously they don't have enough pitchers to pitch. What was it? Snell pitched 8 innings, and we had a complete game out of
Yoshi yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I would be shocked if they can complete these series like that. But I mean, you told me before I picked my team that the Brewers do this.
They do every year. And again,
they play well in the season and they come up short in the playoffs. And I'm starting to see it.
Dodgers are going to win this series. This is for sure. I'm not saying that. And I should actually retract what I just said. I didn't mean the series is going to 7. I meant this is a 7-game series.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of time to come back in this.
It looks like the Dodgers is going to sweep them.
It as of right now, yes. But everyone was saying the same thing about the Phils series. And again, being a Phillies fan, I was the first one to tell you after we lost the second game at home, it's over. It's done. Wrap it up. Dodgers are moving on. I tried to warn y'all, though. The Brewers may have been undefeated against the Dodgers in the regular season, but the Brew Crew are, and I'm sorry for my Vikings fans because I don't mean to throw you guys under the bus, but until you guys shake this moniker, I can't really do that. You are the Minnesota Vikings of baseball. Regular season, you're masterful. You're one of the best teams. You have somebody that's statistically probably one of the better guys at his position. And let's not forget, they still have Christian Yelich on this team, who is a fantastic hitter. Not the hitter he used to be, but he's still a fantastic hitter. Did the playoffs come around? Where are you? What happened? It's like you guys just assume the regular season is the championship. And I mean, it boggles my mind every single year. And it seems to me that the only teams they can beat in the playoffs are the ones in their own division. The Cubs, the Reds, the teams that they've played so many times all year long. And maybe I'm looking at this from the wrong side of the coin. Maybe it really just is the Dodgers are that good. Maybe Yoshi is just that good. Because the one glaring issue I've always seen with Yoshinobu is you can get to him early. If you get to him in the first, second, third innings, you're going to have a good chance. But if you allow him to get through those first couple innings, you're done. That guy's going to lock you down. Innings 4, 5, 6, and 7. If he can go that long, you're not getting a run. You're not. Luckily for most teams, they've benefited from the fact that the Dodgers bullpen is god awful, and they've been able to beat, the team based on that alone. But at this point, the Dodgers and Dave Roberts have probably figured it out that we really can't pull these starters anymore.
Yeah, just let them play.
Let Blake Snell go. Let Yoshi go all game if you have to. Will this extend into the World Series? I'm not going to say no,
I will.
but is it going to benefit them?
I think it's
Is
going to
gonna be the
benefit
main
the
question.
Mariners
I think so
if
too.
the Mariners get by. But I really thought if the Brewers going to stay in the series, they had to take game 2.
Mhm.
And they choked it off. I watched the game, after the first inning, the hits got cold.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, this is going to be a game after that first half of inning. I was like, all right, they came to play today.
Mhm.
And like you just said, they couldn't get out of their own way. And I'm thinking the same thing with the Mariners. If they can play like they've been playing, I thought the same thing. If this is going to be a series, they're going to have to even up the series of game 2.
Mhm.
I think the Mariners have enough bat hitters that they can complete this series. I'm thinking game 5. I thought the same thing. Game 5, game 6, this series would go. But the way the Mariners are hitting, and I think that's just going to be beneficial for the Dodgers bullpen because they're going to tire them out. Tire them out. I hope this does go 6, 7 games just for the benefit of the hitters in Seattle. But I'm looking forward to it. Game 3 today with the Mariners and the Jays. I believe pre-game starts at 4:40 here on ESPN. You can listen to the game and all the series right here on ESPN Bakersfield.
And at this point, a Seattle Dodgers World Series would be so entertaining, especially based on just the story alone. The Dodgers returning, obviously, with the most money in baseball spent. And everybody that I have seen on the internet that's not a Dodger fan is crying today, begging Manfred to implement a salary cap. Begging him. Look, y'all, there's nothing you can do about it. Baseball's never going to have a salary cap. It's just how it works. Now, are we going to see a day where they stop with these deferred contracts? Probably. Because although legal, you're still circumventing. And that's not fair in sports.
Found the loophole.
We were just talking about it yesterday with this whole Clippers and this aspiration nonsense with Kawhi Leonard. That's essentially the same thing. Going to a company and asking them to pay the rest of his contract so you don't have to get under the salary cap. In my opinion, it's not, it's not the same, but it's pretty equal to a baseball team telling a baseball player, we're going to pay you $2 million until 2033. And then after 2033, you're going to get $26 million for the rest of essentially your life. That is wild.
And will that come off the cap in that 2030?
Yeah.
If they end up
do
changing
implement it, 100%.
I personally think the opposite. I think the salary cap is coming to baseball, but it's probably around 2030, 2035.
Yeah, somewhere like
I can't believe I'm even saying it.
Once everybody starts doing this and the baseball says,
I think
okay.
Finally, the Mariners adapted and okay, we're going to actually trade and we're going to do something before the deadline. And look at them. I mean, I think the Mariners owners, there's a reason they haven't been in because they usually trade away their sluggers. And I think this year was, okay, this is a short amount of time that we have here with these sluggers, and we're going to bring in some more heat.
Which is how baseball usually works, right? You have a small window of time in which you capitalize on it with all of the talent that you have. But again, when you have teams like the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Phillies and, well, the Blue Jays, because they are number 5 in the league in pay, I mean, these guys are paying ridiculous amounts of money for these players to come and play for them. But at the same time, like Sparky just said, there's nothing against it. There's no rule against it. That's just how baseball works. I know a lot of fans don't care for that unless you're a Dodger fan and then you're happy as can be. But
I hear the same argument from Dodger fans.
Yeah.
They're all billionaires. They can all do it. They can all do it.
But see, that's the thing. They're not all billionaires. They're not all the same. That's the thing.
It's the smaller markets.
Yes.
When you got sponsors and people helping with these contracts, it's a bit different from Los Angeles to a little Milwaukee team or something like that.
When you take teams like New York and LA, who can easily just walk onto the street, find an athlete that gets paid millions upon millions of dollars to come be part of the team, magic. It's easy to sit there and say, "Hey, Magic, you want to dip into your funds and help us pay for this kid?" It's the simplest thing in the
it's a quick
world.
return.
Do you think you can do that out there in Seattle? You think you can do that out there in Milwaukee? Heck no.
Look
You
what we got at the bobblehead night.
Milwaukee's best bet is the beer companies that are out of there. And most of those just want to be sponsors. They're not going to sit there and front money for athletes. So I don't know. I just, again, it's how baseball is, all the griping against it. I'm with Bryce Harper. The only people who are crying about it are the ones who
Are
are
losing.
losers.
Exactly.
And it's true. It genuinely is true because I echo the sentiment that a lot of Dodger fans say your owner can go do it too. Not every owner can, let's be fair, but most owners can go do it too.
They're not hurting money wise.
No, they're just everybody's mad because the Dodgers beat them to it.
Yeah. And just as a baseball fan, I'm hoping that these series go longer.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, as a Mariners fan,
Well,
the quicker the better. Let's go.
and that's the other thing that I highlight too, for those of you who are Dodger fans thinking this is going to be a sweep. I doubt this is a sweep because let's not forget, again, like I just told you, they beat you every single game in the regular season, and that's not a fluke. There is still a possibility they could beat you in Chavez Ravine, but let's pretty much say this series is wrapped up.
They'll probably get a game, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think you maybe sneak this into 5, maybe 6. If you could fight hard enough in game 5, because I guarantee I'm gonna guess they win game 3. The Brewers, I mean, they win game 3, probably lose game 4, head back to Milwaukee, fighting for your life, and hope to God you can pull off game 5. But I have to agree with you. I think this is over in 5, and it's hard to dictate who the Dodgers are even going to throw on the mound because you can go to any which way you want. Honestly, if you want to throw Glass now out there, I think you'll have a fantastic ace. Shohei has obviously showed that he can shut stuff down. And as long as you can just turn it around and get it back to Blake Snell and Yoshinobu in game 6 and 7, there ain't no way you're beating this Dodger squad. I'm sorry. There's not. But at this point, I think everybody just has to hope and pray that either the Blue Jays or the Seattle Mariners make it out of the AL, and we could see some fantastic competition in the World Series this year between the Dodgers and whomever will be the team to try to usurp the team that's going to be looking to go back to back and win a championship once again. Let's take a break real quick. I have another story in the world of baseball I'd love to bounce off you.
And I know the Mariners are pitching with Kirby tonight, so
Are
I think they'll get this one.
Look at that. It's a quick 3-game lead right there in that series, and that series could be over as well. So we'll see how that goes. On the other side of this break, though, I'm going to get into this whole Skaggs situation. Tyler Skaggs, a long time ago, was a pitcher for the Angels, passed away, and now his lawyer has come out and, well, he's blaming the Angels, saying that they are solely responsible for the entire thing and the entire overdose. So I'll give you the details on that on the other side of the break. This is the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield. Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special right here on 101.1 FM, 12:30 AM, ESPN Bakersfield. We're also streaming video every single day, 7 to 9 in the morning, while the show is going on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. You can follow us on all social media platforms, like, share, subscribe with your friends, all that type of good stuff. And join the flock. I'm gonna run with this. I swear. I'm joining. We're creating something here. This is the flock, baby. Call. No, we can't use that. Freddie and
That's the
Harry already used
Falcons.
that. Dang it. We'll figure something out. We'll figure something out.
This Skaggs story,
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought it up because it is not only a sad story, but
This has
it's
been
getting
going
wild.
for over half a decade.
Yes.
So for those of you who have no idea what we're talking about, baseball fans do because we've been talking about this for years. But Tyler Skaggs was a pitcher for the Angels who passed away back in 2019 due to an overdose on opioids. And for the last 6 years, his attorney and his family have been fighting in civil courts and so many other different levels of court and judicial system to essentially, find out who's to blame for this, who's the reason. And now we have yet another update that the lawyers of Tyler Skaggs have come out and are now solely blaming the Angels as the responsible party for Skaggs' overdose. And their reasoning is this: this all comes from ESPN, mind you, but they're pretty much saying that the Angels should be held responsible for the overdose due to the fact that the Angels went out of their way to essentially bury their head in the sand and ignore that one of their employees was a drug addict on opioids and was supplying those pills to players. I which again, I've heard so many different names thrown out of who potentially could have given him the pills, including teammates at the time. But the person they're blaming directly right now is the communication director, Eric Kay, who has a history, again, of being an addict to opioid pills, even went to rehab the week before Skag died, and they sent him to Texas with the team. Eric, mind you, I'm sorry. Eric was sent with the team right after leaving rehab for said issue. The Angels obviously are coming out saying they had no idea that not only did Kay take the pills and was an addict, but Skaggs was taking pills and was an addict. And they're claiming they had no idea of anything and would have stepped in and done something had they known, says their attorney. Obviously, he's going to sit there and say, well, of course, if my client knew that they had, drug addicts, working for them, they would reach out and they would, do something about it. Shenanigans. I call shenanigans because every piece of information from this story, and I highly recommend you go to ESPN and read this story, tells me they knew about Kay because they sent him to rehab, brought him back on the team, or at least in the organization, and it sent him with the team where he was peddling pills to the players. And Skaggs, mind you, had a bender that night. Apparently, they're claiming, or at least the Angels attorney is claiming that Skaggs was drunk. He was also snorting the pain pills and was on other opioids and whatnot. Again, the autopsy proves that Skaggs was very, very, very much inebriated at the time and overdosed on opioids. Regardless of if he was drinking or not, does not matter. We all know these athletes deal with a lot of pain. Their bodies are sacrificed. That's why they get paid millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to make you happy at home watching them play. That's why. That's why we pay football players $100 million to get hit by other football players. But in this case, this is damning for the Angels, in my opinion. We now know that the pills came from the communication director. We now know that they knew this communication director at least went to rehab. We may not know for what, but they at least know he went to rehab. And he was still on the team's payroll. We've talked about this, Sparky, when it comes to these guys suing company or suing teams and organizations and how they can stay on an organization after that. But can anybody justify to me why you would keep someone around that you know that's a drug addict especially in something so pivotal as a sports organization? Does that not warrant you getting fired? Is that not some? I mean, we're firing people for what they say on social media, but you can't fire somebody for being an addict outside of work? That doesn't make any sense to me. What are your thoughts?
That's a tough one, dude. I know with them being aware of the guy's issues and he's already been at rehab. I know there's certain steps in contract paperwork that, you can't suspend, or you can suspend them, but you can't fire them because they have to
Mhm.
go to rehab first and you have to be there for your player that's under contract. But to let him back in the building and traveling with players, that's the red flag.
Right.
And whether you knew about Skaggs issues or not, that you have a drug addict involved, and it's on really it is on you. It is
Mhm.
on you as an organization, a team that pays millions of dollars and has a full roster of millionaires. That's on you for their
Mhm.
health and concerns. And to let the guy back in the building, I think is just the big red flag. And I think they'll win this easily.
It's deplorable. I agree with you. I think they win this hands down, especially with the information that we know now from the years and years and years of judicial fights that this family's had to go through. But for the Angels to just blindly put their head in the sand and just say, "Yeah, yeah, we had no idea." That's a lie. That is a lie, a bold-faced lie.
Just a blanket answer. Okay, we didn't
Artie,
know anything until we did.
look, man, Artie Moreno, the owner of the Angels, I'm not damning him. I'm sure he has, some sort of wall between him and the players, as most of these guys do. But you are the owner and you got to know, man, this is happening in your organization. You got to just nip that out. You can't. I'm sorry. I'm sure there's legal issues that stop you from being able to remove people like this from their job, even though have obvious issues.
Even if you don't know, it's still it falls under that blanket of that's your
It's your
organization, and what happens
responsibility.
in the building and team activities, that's on you.
I couldn't agree with you more. And honestly, I couldn't agree with you more about how this is going to end. I think this is going to be handed to the Angels. The Angels are going to have to hand over millions of dollars to the Skaggs family, as they should have already. And at this point, like, this was a tragic, tragic story at the time. I remember the day it happened, waking up that day and hearing that Skaggs was found dead in his hotel room in Texas right before he was supposed to start the game against the Rangers. And then they came out and said it was opioids. And it was really at the height of the opioid crisis when everybody was, cracking down on it and saying that there's too much of this being passed around. And he was one of the main stories everybody used. And at this point, again, it's another example of just poor management by some of these sports organizations. I mean, again, and unfortunately, it's in LA again. I know the Clippers are dealing with it. I know the Angels are now dealing with it, but it's like these. How do I put this? I think you put it beautifully. I think just your responsibility is solely to know who's working for you and how they're affecting the play. Because who's to say that this guy didn't start Skaggs' issue? How long has this guy been there? How long has he been peddling pills to these players? And who else was affected by it?
We got a message that says, these are grown ass adults that, can do what they can and want to do. Either way, you're under contract from a business.
Yes.
If I had a drug problem and I went to work, if I'm under the clock or on the clock and I'm working in your business, if you didn't take that first step like they did to shoot him to rehab, then you brought him back and put him surrounded by a team of players, whether they're adults or not.
Look, I get the whole these guys are adults, they do what they need to, but that's also and I don't mean to demean your opinion, but that's an opinion of somebody who's never had a serious injury before, most likely. You have never had to deal with that in a sense of an athletic point. And when you are in a constant area of stress where you are expected to be top tier 110% of the time, and anytime you're not, you're ridiculed for it, whether if you're hurt or not, or dealing with something outside of the game. There are a lot of factors that go into why these guys do what they do, and they grab the pills. My issue with it is the team knew he came into work high all the time. That's why they sent him to rehab. And like Sparky just said, you still turned around and sent him off with the team. You can't do that. It's deplorable. You're putting the players in bad spots and around just bad influences. You all sit there and talk about bad influences. When was the last time your buddy looked at you and said, let's just go have one drink? And you literally just sat there and had one drink, right? You're an adult. You made your decision. But no, you sat there with your buddy, most likely had 4, 5, 6 beers because that's what you do. That's called peer pressure. These athletes have a different kind of peer pressure. The peer pressure to be great at all points in time. And unfortunately, that means you need opioids sometimes to kill the pain. And that's what ultimately led to Skaggs, not being on this earth anymore. But like me and Sparky just said, the Angels are damned. At least from this story, from what I'm reading right here, if this is all 100%, there ain't no way, I think, personally, the judicial system doesn't see them as responsible for the death of Tyler Skaggs. Let's take a break real quick. We got our guys from BC football on the other side of the break. We'll talk about homecoming. Plus, they had the Hall of Fame dinner over the weekend. Plenty to talk about and recap for our Renegades. So this is the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 101.1 FM, 1230 AM. Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 101.1 FM, 12:30 a.m. It is time, as we always do on Wednesdays, to talk to the voices of Bakersfield College Renegades football. That is our guy Kenny Calvin and Rob Chavez. Gentlemen, welcome. Welcome back.
Morning, guys. Morning,
y'all.
Now I know we gotta address the elephant in the room here. We can only see Kenny because Rob is on the road right now. Rob, where are we headed?
We're headed out to the southwest, doing a little daddy duty and making sure we're following up on doctor's appointments.
Fantastic. I'm excited. What's going on? You got something you
It's a little personal.
Hey, you gotta love the dedication from Renegade Rob, man. He said he ain't missing the show.
We do appreciate that. But real quick, let's talk about the Hall of Fame dinner that happened over the weekend. I was unable to attend, unfortunately, as I was out of town. But how did it go? Did we have a good time? Like, did everybody get the proper amount of flowers that they deserve? And, like, what were your thoughts on this?
Absolutely beautiful moment watching, some of my mentors be celebrated. I think a moment of the night for me that got me in tears was watching the 1978 77-78 basketball championship team have an opportunity to tell their story. And, you had the greats like Todd Ward and, and a few other guys along with Coach Hudson giving a description of how the process was for them in the late 70s. For me, it was very emotional reflecting on my Uncle Manuel Calvin's time as a teenager. Like these are the men that you molded yourself after, and you get to hear about them being just regular student athletes, man. It was a beautiful moment. For me and Rob being there, seeing our coach Rick Van Horn get his flowers was a beautiful moment. Talking about a lot of things that we were unaware of as players and how great he was in his campaign as a Renegade. But I think the icing on the cake was having a guy like Tyrone Crawford in his stellar NFL career come back and talk about how much he loves Bakersfield. His wife is from Bakersfield. He has 4 beautiful daughters. They were all in attendance. Hearing a guy that's reached epic levels talk about how much he loves Bakersfield as his second home, it was just validation on how great the Renegade process is.
I agree. And before we get to your thoughts, Rob, real quick, I have to highlight something just because we talked about this last week with an athlete. But personally, I think that this community, this county, is a gold mine for athletes. I don't think that a lot of people really realize how many professional athletes that we've had here in Bakersfield and Kern County as a whole. But both of you, I would like to hear both of you speak on this of just the athletes that you guys have seen, including Mr. Crawford, obviously, who comes back and speaks about this, but each of them come back and speak about how just they loved this community and how much they really, well, they're here in where they are because of this community.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this on the broadcast several times about how rich this community is when it comes to professional athletes. I mean, right now in the NFL, you see it. We've had several Bakersfield residents, the guys that grew up here that have played that are playing in the NFL right now. And I know, Kenny, we adopt Joey Porter Jr. I mean, the kid grew up here. Yeah, he played his high school ball in Pittsburgh, but for the most part, he's a Bakersfield kid. And everybody else, though, that is starring right now, it goes to show you what Bakersfield is all about. And even Tyrone, I mean, having him up in the booth as well, too, with us on Saturday was even better. I mean, the guy was so humble. I mean, besides, physically looking at him and saying, man, that guy looks like a professional athlete. If you heard him and you talked to him, you would never have thought this guy was at all an elite athlete because he was so down to earth, so humble. Everything about him was what you want to know about a professional athlete. A lot of times they say, if you ever want to meet your heroes, that's a hero that you want to meet. And it was pretty cool. And going back to what Kenny said, watching that 78 team, the 77-78 team was amazing because I only heard about these guys through my dad, who was, a fan of that team, and he was in high school watching that group of guys go through. So he would always talk about the lore of that team. And of course, I think we've glazed Coach Van Horn over the last couple of weeks, and he could deserve another week of it. We could do a whole show on what he's done, but it was awesome to see his son, talk to his dad. They were all proud, and I was glad to be a part of it.
One of these days, we're going to have to sit down and do a whole show about Mr. Van Horn and what he's done for the entire community, because, God, would it take about 2 to 3 hours.
Absolutely. Great idea, guys.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the game that happened on Saturday, homecoming. I hope that it was a fantastic turnout, because I even pumped you guys up at Brunch Fest, trying to get the Brunch Fest people to show up there as well. And hopefully they listen to me.
I did get a couple people that were getting our EBS shirts. And they sent me pictures sitting outside of Renegade Stadium. So
look at a 4-game side right now. What did you guys see during this game? And one of the major questions I have to ask, especially you, Rob, because we've talked about this for the last couple of weeks, but do you think the moving to one quarterback in this system benefited at all?
Yeah, it was fine. I think everything that we've seen about, what it is to have one quarterback was fine, minus the fact that we had another snap that went over his head. Everything else that had to do with the reasons why our offense sputtered had nothing really to do with Carson Woods, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. He had 6 drop passes, and the offense sputtered super early. And it wasn't until, really the defense was starting to come into its own. And Kenny can talk about this a little bit more about how the defense feels every single time they sit down on that bench, and then they feel like they got to get right back up because it was a 3 and out or a quick turnover. That sort of thing, didn't happen. We didn't see it. It was a better second half, but the first quarter already see themselves down 14-0, and it didn't even look like Cerritos had even broken a sweat. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that had anything to do with what was the offensive play calling or anything like that. That was pretty solid. I mean, we didn't see too many crazy things other than, again, drop passes, and it was just missed opportunities for sure. And it looked like the Renegades wanted to play only one half of a game, and they forgot to really come out of the locker room for the first half.
Kenny, anything to add to that?
Rob hit the nail on the head. Carson did a fantastic job putting some balls square in between the numbers for guys. And sadly, you have a few young players that just didn't answer the call. On our first drive, we had 3 drop balls, mm-hmm. or, two of the first 3 plays were drop passes, that led to a 3 and out. And then they come down and score with an amazing quarterback in Jeremiah Calvin. And then the next series, we're looking to try to answer the call. We throw another quick slant across the middle, and it bounces right off the chest of a Renegade receiver. And what happens when it bounces off a chest? Interception, going the other way. So when you start a game like that with those miscues from a player perspective, it takes the coaches right out of their game plan. And, and that's one of the things that I highlighted on the broadcast is that, when we lose games, we always want to point fingers. And we can't point fingers at coaches when you got players dropping balls that turn into turnovers, right? But you're not going to hear that in the news when you're listening to the wrong people. They're going to just talk about, wow, the Renegades are struggling. This is 4 losses in a row. What I made sure to highlight during the broadcast was the fact that players have to have the internal desire for their own successes. And as freshman football players, you're getting an opportunity to play, and you're a local kid. And I want to make sure and highlight this point. All over the place, we hear local kids never get a chance to play at BC. Like you hear this from people who are scared to go to BC and they go other places.
Where did they look, man? I see local kids all the time.
Exactly. I was a 22-game starter as a local kids. Right. But you hear those kind of things. And so I always challenge the local guys who get those early snaps. You have to take advantage of it. Because when you're a receiver that's a freshman and you're starting over first-team All-State guys from Florida, you better make that catch. Because eventually you're going to be placed on the sideline and those guys are going to get those opportunities. And that's exactly what happened this past week. When you had guys and some of our freshman local receivers dropping footballs, now all of a sudden you lost your job. And now here comes the kid from Florida who's been salivating that opportunity. So I wanted to make sure to highlight that because we did have some lackluster play from some of our players, but I definitely want to make sure I give credit where credit is due. Ian Jernigan was the reason that our offense got going. Like we threw a throwback screen to him and he took it 60, 70 yards. He was the one player that I can tell took it upon himself to do everything he could to make us better even in a losing effort.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's wild to me that people have that gripe against BC because some of the biggest dogs I've watched on this team the last couple of years have been local boys. I mean, Brock Bowers, we talk about this show all the time. Karen Pachenko. Yeah. I mean, again, there's a ton of them. That's wild to me.
But to get away from last week's game, I mean, we got a road game this week out at Fullerton. Any good matchups? Anything we should keep an eye out on?
Yes, defensively, and I'm gonna let Rob take off on the offense. But defensively, there's a name that's synonymous with big time play on the defensive end, and they have a kid in Paul Malu who basically wrecking shop on their defense. He has
Troy?
4.5 sacks. You got to wonder if this kid is related to Troy because the way he's playing and his stat line, we're going to have to make sure we keep an eye on him and focus on him defensively.
Is this a defensive end? What position are we talking here?
He's going to be a safety, outside backer.
Oh Lord.
So it's one of those guys that flies around to the football, man. I can't wait to see this kid play.
Now I need to know if it's a descendant of Troy. That's going to be interesting. Rob, what are we looking at on the offensive side?
Over there, they've got another capable quarterback. This is going to be, out of the in 7 games, is going to be the 15 that has dedicated themselves to a quarterback and he's averaging over 200 yards a game, and he's definitely got some capable receivers for sure. He's got 3 guys over 400 yards. These guys, again, they're catching the football. 3 guys over 300 yards. But for the most part, what I see is that this is truly a basketball on grass type of team because they are averaging 45 points. They're averaging 450 yards per game, but they're giving up 400 yards per game as well, too. So it seems to me like that Palomalu kid might be the only kid on defense that's really doing anything because if you're giving up 400 yards average per game and you're still 5-1 and ranked number 9 in the state, that's kind of saying something. So this is an opportunity for the Renegades offense, Carson Woods, to really shine here. If there's ever going to be an opportunity for them to see a defense in the next 3 games or the next 4 games that is going to allow you to do some things, this is going to be the game. And, I have a feeling that, between Coach Dean, Coach Dameron, those guys on the offensive side of the ball, they're going to be scheming something up here because, as much as we have given credit to the defense and they set the table, the excitement and the flow all has come from the offense in past years. When BC is going good, it's because that offense is going good.
Absolutely. And I mean, anytime you have a Palomalu on the defensive side, I'm pretty sure that's all you need. I mean, as a USC fan, I can say that. Game is at 2 p.m. on Saturday. You can listen to it on our sister station of Kern Radio with Kenny Calvin and Rob Chavez, giving you all the ins and outs of the game. And then real quick before I let you guys go, Rob, it's a big weekend for us, baby. Notre Dame. What are you feeling?
I'm feeling really good, especially after the fact that they've got a lot to say, chirping pretty loud. And my guy Steve Wofford was there in the stadium, and he said it didn't even look like Michigan got off the bus, that Notre Dame is going to be next. And I'm sticking with that. I've got a lot of confidence, man.
Number 1 offense in college ball. I will put money on it right now. I know not statistically, but this is the best offense in college ball, and I will put money on it. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time as always. We will talk to you guys next week. Good luck this weekend.
All right, guys. Have a great week.
Thank you. We'll take a break real quick, pay some bills. This is the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield. Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 101.1 FM, 12:30 a.m., as well as streaming video live every single weekday during the show, 7 to 9, on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. You can go back on our YouTube channel and watch all of our old episodes. They will all be there for you under the live tab. We also have playlists in there of old interviews and stuff like that you can check out. Our interview with KG will most likely be up by today or tomorrow. Get our thoughts on what happened over the weekend at Crown Jewel, plus a ton of other great guests that we have lined up for the rest of the week. Jason Horowitz from the Raiders will be joining us again on Friday. Bolt Brady on Thursday. Our guy Anthony as well on Thursday. Bakersfield Pizza Company will be joining us on Friday as well. We got a great
Ryan
lineup
Holt
of guests.
from the Condors. Yep. Opening night is this weekend.
Dude, I want to go down there just solely for the Leo bobblehead. I want the Draisaitl bobblehead. If anybody can get me one and bring it to the station, I will. I don't know what I'll do for you. I'll give you a T-shirt or something. We'll trade. I don't know. We'll figure something out, but I will hook you up. Someone's got to go get me a Draisaitl bobblehead at that game. I would love to have that and just put it up in the studio somewhere because we need some Condors merch in here.
Yes.
We need to, well, not necessarily in here, but in the new studio when we get that all set up. We need some Condors merch. We have some acoustics merch now. We got some wrestling merch that's going to be going up all over the place, but we need some Condors merch. We got to throw some stuff in there. With the 5 minutes we have left, I have been shocked before, Sparky. I have. But during the break, in between, I have Fox Sports above me and Colin Cowherd's show is going, which I love Cowherd. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a big Cowherd guy.
No thanks.
But the hierarchy is kind of wild for the NFL today. I don't know how you have the okay. I got to set the table here. Nick Wright, one of his favorite guests, obviously, is talking football. And when Nick Wright talks football, everybody knows it's usually Patrick Mahomes. He even has a whole thing called the Mahomes Mountain, in which Mahomes hasn't been at the top of in years, but hey, it's still Mahomes Mountain somehow. And the herd hierarchy has the Chiefs at the number 1 spot, while the rest of the teams in the top 10 have a better record than them.
I can see that.
Nah.
I can see it.
I mean, in the top 10, sure, but number 1? Are we really about to put the crown back on the Chiefs? Are we ready?
I can see it. I'm seeing it everywhere.
How quickly we forget about how good the Chargers were just a few weeks ago. How quickly we forget about
that offensive line
so many
ended
things.
That real quick.
Again, I am a firm believer they're a top 10 team in the NFL. Let's not get crazy.
I still think they take the number 1.
Really?
I still think they get their bye.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Who else is going to do it?
I mean, this is fair. Well, the Buffalo Bills.
And the Bills just lost a couple in a row.
Fair, but they still have a better record than the Chiefs do right now. But I mean, again,
by a game.
Still,
I still have more belief in the Chiefs than the Bills.
I mean, again, Patrick Mahomes being Patrick Mahomes, obviously.
Exactly. And they get Rice back. The offensive is starting to work. The defense has shown up.
I don't know, man. Again, I realize they're hot right now, but to put them at the number 1 team in the NFL, at least in my opinion.
And they always start out slow.
They do.
We've seen that the last couple of years.
Especially defensively. We mentioned that yesterday. Usually the Chiefs defense is the quickest to figure out their issues, especially by playoff time, and then they become a top-tier defense.
I could still see the same thing with Buffalo. I think this bye came in perfect time after a couple losses, and we'll see what this Bills team looks like. We only have 2-3 weeks before the trade deadline. I'm going to see, the Chargers, if they're going to add a running back, if it's going to be the Chiefs adding some core pieces, if the Bills need a receiver.
Houston is now also reporting that Joe Mixon might not play at all this year.
And I'm seeing the same thing with the Niners and Ayuk.
That's incredible. I am so frustrated with my running backs this year, and you guys know how much I need running backs in fantasy football.
And speaking of that, after this, we will get our Waiver Wednesday each position for your fantasy teams.
This is the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 101.1 FM, 12:30 a.m. Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 101.1 FM, 1230 AM. Streaming video live every single weekday from 7 to 9 on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. You can watch us, see our beautiful faces every single morning as we try to help you guys out with all the major stories in the world of sports and on your fantasy football team as we give you our waiver Wednesday picks the week. We got to find an actual like music bed or something to throw underneath these.
It's too radio.
I know. And plus, YouTube won't allow it. They'll just flag us and say, none of that.
It's too radio.
Copyright. But anyways, let's give you guys our top waiver wire picks the week. It's been a sticky couple weeks in fantasy football, especially if you're looking for running back help. And it's kind of slim pickings in some areas, personally. But let's start with the quarterback position. I am going to go with Aaron Rodgers this week. Look, man, Thursday night, Cincinnati. Let me paint the picture for you.
Stay away from Thursdays.
I understand, but let me paint the picture for you. Cincinnati versus Pittsburgh, the Uncle Bowl. The second time ever the NFL is going to have two 40-year-old quarterbacks going up against each other as Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco try to beat each other in a rivalry game here on Thursday.
I'd stay away from that.
Here's the thing. Cincinnati, most likely, will be playing without Trey Hendrickson. Cincinnati also gives up 22nd in points to quarterbacks in fantasy football. Not to mention, Aaron Rodgers looked fantastic in 2 weeks ago before the bye week against a top-tier defense in Cleveland where he chalked up about 25 fantasy points. If you are one of these people like myself who just maybe drafted Josh Allen and have nobody else because who needs any other quarterback besides Josh Allen, let's be honest, you may need some help this week because Josh is on a bye. This could be that perfect 1-week solution for you. I know, I agree with Sparky. Most of the time, I stay away from Thursday night games.
I did use him as soon as my boy in Cincy got hurt, and I rolled with him, and he got me Jack, and it's a good matchup.
It is a fantastic
I will say
matchup.
it's a good matchup, but they're also coming back from overseas.
True.
A bye week, and
they could have gotten over the jet lag already. We don't know.
If there's still some other quarterbacks available. I was looking at our league, and I picked up Jackson Dart.
Smart.
I think that he's got an upside, and I think he's starting to figure out, okay, I mean, even the 2 plays that he was out and Russell Wilson, even the coach was like, no.
Yeah. Why are we throwing Russell back out there?
So if you can, I would roll with Jackson Dart. Personally, I would I just don't like these Thursday games. And if you have to, and Aaron Rodgers is the best available, I wouldn't say the matchup isn't bad. I mean, Cincinnati without Hendrickson, that might be just a pushover, but that also might help where the running backs.
Right. Absolutely. And I mean, the running back situation, for me at least, has been incredibly dim because everybody has really taken my advice, and good for you, that you need some multiple running backs in order to be successful in fantasy football. And as I've told you guys before the break, there's a rumor now that Joe Mixon may not see the field, at least for the foreseeable future, for the Houston Texans. I know he's had a really rough going so far, but I'm going to tell you right now, Nick Chubb might be a solid choice, at least for a flex position. He is still the guy they kind of rely on more than Woody Marks, although Woody has really become an outlier, I would say. The explosive guy, exactly, especially since Nick really hasn't had that explosive play like he used to before all the injuries. But I would trust Nick Chubb this week to at least get you a little bit of points. The other one that I'm looking at, though, too, and I didn't want to take this one from Sparky because I know it's his guy, but it's Vidal. I mean, I went into last week thinking Chargers most likely going to go with the running back by committee till they figure out who their guy is. I think they figured out very quickly who their next guy is, and that's Vidal. So,
I mean, after he rushed 142 yards last week and a touchdown, I picked the same guy. I also think whoever's playing the Dolphins, I just think that rush defense is the worst in the NFL, and it's the worst I've seen for many years. And I've seen some horrible defenses, but if Vidal's still out there, I've been lucky, even with Hampton going out, and that was one of my main guys. I'm getting a lot of love from these backup running backs, whether it's Vidal last week or Rico the week before, and I started both of them last week and went off.
Rico, you might be lucky. Some of your leagues haven't picked up Rico yet. The only reason I didn't have Rico in my waiver wire is because about 90% of leagues have him rostered. But if you are in that 10% that don't have him rostered right now, I would grab him because I think Carolina has really seen a avenue in which they can take this, allow Chuba to get fully healthy, and then they could potentially have a 2-back system when he gets back. So I think Rico is going to be carrying the majority of the load here in the next couple of weeks for Carolina.
At wide receiver, I snagged a Boutte from the Patriots. I think Drake May is heating it up, and that's his guy. That's a guy he's feeding. And I know he's been hit and miss because I picked him up before, and he had a 1 point, a 2 point, and then he blows up for 30, 40 points. But if it's an injury, I know there's a lot of injuries in the NFL right now, especially if you have Tampa Bay receivers. But if you need a guy for a week or two, Boutte is a nice snag.
I need Mike Evans back this week, like nobody's business. But wide receiver,
I believe he's back.
He's supposed to be,
and so is CeeDee Lamb. But we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it's still up in the air. It's questionable, but I do hear rumor that he will be back this week. And knowing Mike Evans, he's one of those guys that'll play injured, so I wouldn't be surprised. My wide receiver this week, I've been singing this guy's praises since week 1. I don't know how there are still 25% of you that haven't picked him up yet, but what are you all waiting on Wan'Dale Robinson for? This is the number 1 choice in New York now, and to be honest with you, he was a stud last year. He's a fantasy stud this year, and he catches dang near everything that gets thrown to him. Once him and Jackson Dart really start to mesh, I think you're going to see a fantastic connection between these two, one that will easily propel him into the top 25 in wide receivers, which he's already at right now. And there are 25% of you rosters out there who don't have him on a team. This week may be a little tricky for him, obviously, because he's going against the Broncos, but they know ways to scheme him into that slot where Patrick Surtain most likely will not be following him, and he'll get the ball. So I'm going to go with Wan'Dale Robinson at the wide receiver position this week.
And over at tight end, I'm going to keep it with the Chargers. I went with Rondé Gadsden. Now there's some injuries, and with that offensive line not really playing up with the backups, I like Gadsden. I know that Herbert, he feeds him. I think he got 8 targets last week, 7 before, and I think he's just going to continue to feed him.
I have 2 tight ends for you this week. One of them is one that Sparky got to you guys onto last week. That's AJ Barner. AJ has silently been a consistent threat at tight end. He's sneaking up into the top 10 area in fantasy points. The last, I think, 4 or 5 weeks, he's had double-digit points for you. So if you're sitting there with a tight end that hasn't been doing well, this is somebody you really need to look at. Another guy that I've been singing praises about for the last couple weeks, but I've kind of, backed off him a little bit. But Mason Taylor with the Jets. Mason is a rookie out of LSU, stud. And trust me, I know it's a rough going with Justin throwing the ball right now. But even with Justin only throwing 9 passes last week, Mason still got you solid points. So at this point, I think Mason is going to be at least a reliable target, especially with Garrett out. And I think Justin's going to be looking for any help he could possibly get as close to the line of scrimmage as possible, because this team is going to have to drastically change what they are doing in order to be successful. I wouldn't be surprised if they start playing this, or funneling the offense rather, not only through Breece Hall, but through the tight ends. So I would not be surprised if Mason Taylor takes a massive jump in the next couple weeks.
And I've heard a lot of rumors that Breece Hall is on his way out.
Well, they've been saying that. They've been saying that since the beginning of the season, when Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner were also in that conversation.
Well, now Wilson hurt and the season falling apart. I was like, all right. Might as well.
If you want to get rid of a talent in Breece Hall, go for it. But he's going to go to another team and be an absolute stud, and then the Jets are going to look stupid.
You're going to send him over to the Chargers?
Exactly. And again, are we going to get a 1-2 punch of Breece Hall and Amari and Hampton? Ooh. My God, John or Jim, sorry. Wrong Harbaugh. Sorry, one of them needs to be fired. The other one is doing fantastic. So, I mean, I can't really talk. But those are your picks for us this week, unless you have a defense. Do you have a defense for these guys this week?
I don't.
Yeah. Again, the defense and special teams are so tricky sometimes. It really is a matchup by matchup situation. So in those, I always just tell people, if you don't already have one that is a consistent threat for you for, 15 points roughly, I would go and try to just run the waiver wire on teams based on matchups. If you're going against teams like the Jets, like well, unfortunately, like Miami,
The
like
Saints.
the Saints, it's a great one. You can easily get some good points out of defenses and special teams.
And if you still have Baltimore, let them go.
Yeah, let them go. I did the exact same thing this week. Let them go. 31st in points in fantasy football. And at this point, they're not going to be turning around anytime soon. They need these injuries to really be taken care of, and they need their guys back, Raekwon Smith, Kyle Hamilton, amongst others. But at this point, just blow it up. We've already said it multiple times on this show. I love John Harbaugh as a person. I do. But it just may be time for that team to really need some sort of change of scenery. It really is. And change of leadership, because we got to figure something out. It is crazy to say. It's crazy to think about too. But 1-5 going potentially 1-6. No, that is not acceptable. Not with a team that was this good. I'm sorry, not with a team that was supposed to essentially right now. They should be 6-1 and the best team at football is what it should be. But we're looking at them as potentially the worst and the worst team in the AFC North right now. And that's saying something when the Cincinnati Bengals are in the same division.
That's why all the Steeler fans are coming out.
Oh, I know it. And again, I, as you all should, your back is the AFC North Kings. Good for you. However, let's not get crazy. Aaron Rodgers ain't getting you to a Super Bowl, and neither is Artie Smith.
Ooh. And we'll take a break. We'll get into what pro Football Focus sent us, the 7 things NFL fans must accept, the Week 6 edition. Right
I
after
didn't have
this.
to accept it, neither do you.
Welcome back. Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 101.1 FM, 12:30 a.m. Streaming live every single day, video-wise, 7 to 9, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok, all that type of good stuff. Like, share, subscribe.
Cowboys fan texted in and said, we want Rico back.
Look, brother, you guys have a great running back. What are you complaining about? Javante's been fantastic. I think both of you guys kind of benefited from this move, to be honest, because Rico wasn't doing that for you guys. And to be honest, as much as I like Rico, look at who he played against. The first game was against Miami. And we have a Miami fan right here who has been telling you guys for weeks.
That was my last week pick.
4 weeks.
And I picked him up and I ran it.
Now, the second game back to back. I mean, as much as I would like to say Rico can continue this, he's been a benefit of 2 pretty dang good games for him. The number 1 worst rush defense in the league. And then a revenge game against, well, your Cowboys.
That's why you want him back.
Exactly. But at this point, I think you guys are fine. I think Javante's fine. Dak is still in the MVP conversation, even without CD Lamb there. I think you guys are fine.
And if CD Lamb comes back, you think Pickens
takes a little bit of step back? I think a little bit, but I do believe Dallas has finally found a way to scheme him into these plays where he will be beneficial. So I wouldn't be surprised to see CD come back, but not play the same positions, if that makes sense.
Moving around.
Exactly. So maybe he will be the one more on the slot or in the slot situation than George will, because I think they've finally figured out a good way to get him involved in what he does best, something that the Pittsburgh Steelers just couldn't do for some reason. And honestly, I think it's going to benefit the Dallas Cowboy offense. I really do. Now, again, the most glaring issue you have in Dallas is the defense. So is it going to help you win games? We'll find out.
Yeah.
That's going to be the big one.
Well, from my boy Mike from Pro Football Talk, this week, 7 things NFL fans must accept. Number 1 is the Browns are wasting time with Dylan Gabriel at quarterback.
Jury's still out for me on this one.
They play Miami this week, so we'll see.
I know. And again, it's going to be an interesting game, but if Dylan can come out and have a string of good games as a starter, I don't think that's fair to say. I think a lot of people want to say that Shedeur will be the better quarterback, including myself, but I think we're kind of being unfair to the kid from Oregon. And honestly, I always forget he was the quarterback at UCF when they were a stud team too. So he's been around winning organizations. So I don't know if that's a fair statement to say just yet, but if he comes out and stinks it up against the Miami Dolphins, 100% they're wasting time.
And number 2, Dart and Scatterbo equal Giants are now contenders.
No. Again,
They can be in games.
They can be in games.
I don't know about contenders.
2 or 3 years from now, contenders.
Maybe.
100%.
Defense is a key.
When they get Malik back, when if they could keep the defense together with Brian Burns and all these stud players in the secondary, 100% they will be a contender again in a year or 2. Right now, I think that's a little early to say because the inexperience of those 2 men specifically is going to bite them in the butt eventually. We just saw it against the Saints.
Number 3, Baker Mayfield deserves MVP hype.
Yes, 100%. Did you see that run he did this past weekend, 3rd and 14, and shook off about 4 or 5 defenders just to get there? And again, this is the man that I say has the most punchable face in football and has since he was at Oklahoma.
You could tell by every game, pregame, he's fighting with fans.
Absolutely. But this dude's a dog. There is nobody that plays like Baker Mayfield.
Number 4, Drake May will finish top 5 in MVP voting. I've been on the Patriots bandwagon ever since Vrabel came back, saying that they're going to be in the mix, and they are in the mix.
No, they're in the mix.
It's 6 weeks in.
Again, we're back in 2007 right now. The Steelers, the Patriots.
Drake May throw a couple more 40 touchdown games, and we'll talk about this.
Yeah, again, it's kind of like the Danny Jones situation. As much as I would love to hand him the MVP through the first 5-6 weeks of the season,
dude, people are so pissed about that talk too.
Boy, Daniel
Jones hasn't had a tough team first. He hadn't shown up against a tough defense. He had watched this week. I've been listening to Freddie and Harry all week, and they are bashing on him. And they also call him Indiana Jones.
I love Indiana Jones now. You guys heard me in the offseason. I was the biggest Daniel Jones hater. I really was. But within the first 6 weeks of the season, I am finally seeing who Daniel Jones is as a quarterback. And this dude is good enough to play. I will completely recede. If I could go back in time right now to before the season, I'd slap myself upside the head and say, hold on, give it a couple weeks before you make that take. But no, to sit there and say that Daniel Jones isn't a respectable member of this team and hasn't gone against a tough defense yet, that's a wild statement.
Number 5, the Chargers will trade for a running back.
Again,
I hope they do.
Out of the realm of possibility.
And Hampton's only supposed to be out a couple more weeks.
Yeah, but again, it's more what I think they had planned coming into the season. They wanted the 1-2. Yeah, with Najee and Omari. And so I think them moving to somebody else, finding a suitable guy to put next to him would probably be a good move for the Chargers.
I'm wondering who it's going to be is more of a question. Are they going to go after maybe one of these running backs in Tennessee?
It would make all Breece Hall, Spears in Tennessee would be a great one to pair together, or Pollard, because I think Pollard is very underutilized on that team, to be completely honest with you. Mostert would be a great one. He's usually one of those guys that they lean on to be the 1-2. Maybe Atlanta decides they can't pay Tyler Algier and they move on from him, even though I would be heartbroken, to be completely honest with you. If there's one man on this roster that I think Atlanta should pay, it's Tyler.
And Kerr was so pissed about him yesterday.
Look, Kerr can stay angry. He's been angry with me as if I'm the one who calls
doing the play calls.
How do I explain this to everybody? Look, Bijan or Bijan, whichever one, doesn't matter. Mama likes Bijan. Bijan likes Bijan. So we're going to go with whichever one he wants. He's still human. The boy needs some rest at some point. And you're going to give Tyler grief for running someone over and running in a 21-yard touchdown as if that was just drawn up that way? Come on. Tyler's a stud. He makes the most out of the opportunities he gets. And as an Atlanta fan, everybody who's mad about it, eat it. We have the best running back tandem in football, and you're going to be seeing that.
That's coming from a person that's obviously invested into fantasy a bit too much.
A little bit.
Number 6, Rico Dowdle should remain running back 1 in Carolina.
I have heard this from Carolina fans.
Yeah.
And that's what's wild to me. And it's not wild to me because he doesn't deserve it, but it's wild to me because Chuba Hubbard for the last, 2-3 years has literally been your entire offense. And they've dropped all love for him in a matter of 2-3 weeks. Like, I don't knock what Rico has done, but let's remember who he's gone up against the last 2 weeks and the benefits of playing those two teams specifically for Rico.
They're not used to winning streaks.
No, they're not.
Let him relax.
I get that, but here's the thing. When Rico comes in and has a bad game, I want to hear what you guys say after that.
Oh, they'll turn quick.
Because Chuba doesn't normally have those bad games. Chuba has been the guy to really carry you through these really rough games. And for the entire organization just to kind of say, oh, well, drop him like Woody. I don't want to play with you anymore. That's just so wild. It's so wild. I like Rico, don't get me wrong, but for everybody just to give up on Chuba Hubbard like this is crazy to me.
That might be a perfect trade.
Trade
him while he's hot.
It's true, but I've heard a lot of people that are Carolina fans specifically that have told me, yeah, I'd take Rico over Chuba right now. I said, that is incredible to hear.
And number 1, which I'll agree with this one 100%, Tyrod Taylor should start over Justin Fields.
Hell yeah.
I don't know what's waiting. What are they waiting on?
Not even just Tyrod, but can we start to sing the praises of a lot of these backup quarterbacks that never get the love they deserve? Tyrod Taylor, Jacoby. I mean, there are so many quarterbacks that really Flacco. Flacco gets the respect. It's just more of he had a really bad couple weeks of the season. But when we really look at these backup quarterbacks that always end up being on the teams that have quarterback issues, but for some reason, these teams never want to go to them. They never want to hand them the ball. So quickly, we forget that Tyrod Taylor, before Justin Herbert was the starter for LA, was actually looking fantastic. The only reason he lost that job is because the doctor punctured his lung accidentally. And yes, I put air quotes up for those of you who are listening on radio. Same with Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby has always been that guy, the backup quarterback that when the quarterback goes down, you look at him and say, oh God, who's this guy? He comes in and is a stud. But the minute he has expectations for himself, you take the ball away from him. It's the weirdest thing in the world. It really is.
I don't know what they're waiting on with that one.
I really don't either.
I mean, it's the play calling.
But again,
they know you can't throw more than 10, 15 times a game. Why?
You know what it is.
Put those
Sparky.
packages together.
It's true. You know what it is, though? It's Aaron Glenn. It's more example of why I think me and you are both correct. Aaron's not a head coach.
No.
Aaron Glenn ain't no head coach. I'm sorry, he's not. And we're going to see it in the next 3-4 years when the Jets continue to go 0-7, 0-8, 0-9 to start the year. And then everybody's going to look at him and say, well, they never gave Aaron Glenn the pieces he needed, even though he's got one of the best up-and-coming corners, wide receivers, and running backs in the league. And they literally will sign anyone you want them to. I don't know what the Jets' problem is.
That's Woody.
It really is. It probably stems mostly from Woody Johnson. It really does. But at the same time, I could not agree with Pro Football Talk more. Tyrod deserves a shot, or at least any quarterback at this point for the Jets, because Justin ain't the answer either.
Nope. And I think I'll throw in an eighth one. I think the Dolphins, if they choke out this game against Cleveland, I want to see Quinn Ewers.
Ooh.
I just want to see what he's got.
Okay.
Because I know the team's going to get blown up after the end of the season.
You think
all the coaching? I just want to see what he can do.
You think you got a Brock Purdy situation here?
We don't know. I mean, I mean, the offensive really haven't been the problem. Even with Tyreek gone, I think Tua has played better since Tyreek's gone. Now that he's got Waller, now he's feeding Jalen Waddle. If it wasn't for the bobble, just like the BC game to start the game, but I would just like, if they're going to be 1-7, 1-8, what are we waiting on? We know Tua is not going to be the future. We're going to have to choke and pay that salary that we already have to. We're going to have to get the penalty, cut that tie. And why not? Let's see what this kid has.
The only thing that pops up into my head when you say what's not is the politics of it, obviously, because you pay certain people an amount of money to be the starting quarterback. And obviously, when you're not that guy, or you're not getting paid, when you're getting paid that money and you're not in that position, obviously people in the front office want to know why.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's an issue, though, in the NFL? Do you think that the NFL needs to start steering away from that? Because, I mean, Atlanta could be a good example. Just because you pay a guy $100 million doesn't mean he's the right decision to be the starting quarterback. Because I don't think Atlanta would be this successful with Kirk Cousins at quarterback compared to Michael Penix. I really don't. I think Michael Penix has the ability that Kirk Cousins has. Now, again, Kirk is a veteran, obviously has more experience and more reps, helping the kid out. I realize that, and I'm sure he is just as important to this success as Michael is playing on the field, but more in the sense of Arthur was questioned by the head coach last year and said, why not throw the kid in? Just like you said, what do we have to lose? Throw the kid in. He's supposed to be the future. That's why you drafted him. So let's see what he's got. Do you think more teams need to kind of adopt that mentality?
Yeah. I mean, if they're playing games that don't mean anything for the future, we're playing for draft picks now. I think, like I said, if it's a couple weeks, we got Cleveland, we got a couple other games that are gimmies. We even got Baltimore coming up here soon. I just think if Miami is really all in on this, okay, it's going to be a change of regime.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they fire the GM and coach that same week. But I think if we threw in a draft pick on this kid that was supposedly, a future before, the year before he was in Heisman running. So I just don't understand. What are we waiting on? We know after Tua talked last game, I think he's digging his own grave, and I think he already sees it on the wall. Unless I really think this is the last game.
Well,
I think if Tua chokes this game off and the defense continues to play like they do, I mean, I think after the season, Tua's gone.
That's a possibility.
But it is a same thing with a lot of teams. I think it's also the same topic we brought up yesterday when I was talking about these number one quarterback picks and the coach is getting fired and everyone is jumping on it now. The Titans should have fired the coach last year. Well, I mean, now you're just stunning your quarterback an extra year. Yeah, he's getting some live action. He's seeing the speed of the difference between college and professional football. But yeah, that year on his contract still counts.
Yeah. and it still counts towards his entire career, really. But the other thing I'm thinking of here as well, what if you guys went the route of the Carolina Panthers last year when Bryce Young wasn't doing well? They weren't producing anything offensively. Why not just bench him? Just bench him for the kid. Send a message. Because that's the one thing I think NFL coaches don't do anymore. Like, they'll quickly do it with other positions. I mean, we talk about Darren Waller and how potentially he's the guy that doesn't show up to player meetings and stuff like that, and how they punished him for that. But we are so quick to never do that with the quarterback position unless it's absolutely detrimental to the team.
And that's exactly what it is.
And that's the, yeah. And I mean, you're in that spot right now of you need a change. So I see it, but that's why I'm thinking in my head, like, if you just benched him for a week, let him start next week, you guys end up going, you're down 10 points, and McDaniel says, you know what? Sit down. You're done. I'm done. I'm putting in the kid. Send the message to Tua. That I think is going to be when you really find out who Tua is. Because I think one of the main things that people like to talk about when it comes to Tua is his mental stability or his mental toughness. Is it there?
Nope.
And
Yeah, I agree with Canty,
Canty,
which is very rare. But Canty came out yesterday and said, "I don't care if you have that C on your jersey and you're the captain of the team. If the team doesn't believe in you and they're not behind you, it doesn't matter if you're captain or not."
I mean, we said the same thing. When I posed that question to you, that's the first thing I popped up in my head was he lost the respect of the locker room. And when you lose the respect of the locker room, like you just said, and like Chris Canty said on Sportsman, you're done.
And Tua's supposed to talk at 9 a.m. and I would guarantee, I would put money on it, he's going to backtrack those comments, because yesterday the offensive lineman came out after practice and was saying, we like to keep this indoors. That's the only thing I'm going to say about that comment.
Well, okay, again, I said what I thought about it. I don't blame Tua at all for saying what he said, because honestly, as the leader and as the quarterback of the team, you need to be the one to speak out. And we see coaches do this all the time. They send messages through the media to their players. I do see, though, how this could have been a detriment to Tua, because obviously you talking ill, especially if you're offensive line.
That's a coach's job.
Yeah. And have you not seen the movie The Replacements? They could just step out of the way and let you get creamed, homeboy.
Yes.
And we've seen what happens when you get hit.
Yes.
So, if you want to just extend your own life, I would keep that mouth shut.
Well, we'll take a break. We'll get into some other headlines. Plus, I want to see what you think of LeBron. He went on his wife's podcast yesterday, and I just want to hear what you think right here on the Early Bird Special.
Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m., 101.1 FM, streaming video every single weekday from 7 to 9 on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. You can also find us on TikTok and Instagram as well. Like, share, subscribe, all that type of good stuff. I know we're going to get to this LeBron James thing as well, but I wanted to float this out there just because it's an interesting story from ESPN. And I don't think I've ever seen somebody of the athlete or some athlete do this per se, but Jet Star or ex-Jet Star center Nick Mangold has reached out to Jets community and the Jets fandom because he needs a kidney donor. For those of you who don't know, Mr. Mangold has been dealing with a rare kidney disease, probably since he's been born, if I'm remembering correctly. But it is gotten to the point now where the 41-year-old had to reach out on social media because none of his family members are the type O blood, so they cannot donate to him. But it even says that he knew this was coming eventually, and unfortunately, he's having to reach out to people he doesn't know. But Nick Mangold, right now, if you are a type O donor and you would like to give your kidney to a 10-year veteran in the NFL, 7-time stud, Pro Bowl center. I mean, he's looking for help right now in any way, shape, or form he can. I hate to see stories like this, especially when you have to reach out on social media because it just makes it feel so
Needy.
yeah. But I don't want to use that word because the word that popped up was desperate, but that's not the word either. But when these types of things pop up, like you just kind of have to lean on the generosity of mankind and hope that somebody steps up and helps you because I mean, that's all he could really hope for right now, and I hope he finds a kidney. I
think
really
you will.
do. I hope he finds somebody that is generous enough that says, "Hey, I got 2 perfectly good working ones, man. I'll give you one." 'Cause
And then
that's all it would take.
keeping it with health in the NFL. I know Bears wide receiver DJ Moore has returned to the
Yes.
team after spending a night in Washington's hospital.
Have you ever seen someone spend the night for a groin injury, though?
No.
That's what was weird to me. I was like, "That must have been a very serious groin injury for you to have to stay at the hospital overnight." But you're right. I mean, him being back with the team is a good sign. I would assume this means that he will most likely be rehabbing from that injury. But for him to have to stay overnight in Washington to get that fixed, I'm very curious what the issue was that they needed to hold him.
And we did have a fantasy question saying, I have Bourne, Lamb, McConkey, Shaheed, and Rome for my wide receivers. Which 3 should I play this week?
CD, McConkey, Rome. And I always lean on the number 1 guys, but that's just me personally. Shaheed is fantastic, but he's really only good for one big play every so often. And when you,
I do like Bourne.
I do like Bourne
If
too.
Mac's playing, I do like him, and I know McConkey's been hit and miss. I love Rome. You know how we feel about Rome. Of course, you have to start Lamb if he plays, but I would keep an eye on Bourne and McConkey.
You flip those 2 out.
I would keep an eye on it, and it's not for sure that Lamb's going to play.
Ladd is just one of those guys that when you get him the ball, he's always a threat to take it deeper.
And if it's a PPR league, Ladd is money.
he's
But I
money.
know, you got to ride who's hot. And if Mac's playing, he's going to feed Bourne.
Oh, 100%. No, I agree with you on that. Actually, that's a good point. So, yeah, find out which quarterback is playing for the San Francisco 49ers, then make that final decision. But your 2 wide receiver slots should definitely be going to CD if he's healthy and playing, and Rome Odunze.
And we are the home of baseball playoffs. You can catch the game 3 of the Mariners and Blue Jays beginning at 4:40 p.m. today.
Absolutely.
Right after the live show from Greg Kerr from noon to 2.
Watch
and
Sparky's
Money
Mariners,
Wise from 2 to 3. And hopefully the Mariners and Kirby could take this game 3. We'll take a break. We'll wrap up the show, preview tomorrow's show. Plus, we got a little LeBron talk here, right here on the Early Bird Special.
Welcome back. Final segment of the day here on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 101.1 FM, 1230 AM. And once again, don't miss Game 3 today. Blue Jays at Mariners, 4:40 start right here on ESPN Bakersfield.
Go Mariners.
Go Mariners. Then we got some sports for you for the rest of the week, as well as Game 3 of the Brewers and Dodgers will be tomorrow starting at 3 p.m., followed by the Steelers and Bengals right after the game. And then Friday, I apologize, we got Game 5, permitting.
If needed, yes.
If needed. Between the Blue Jays at the Mariners starting at 3 p.m. And then the Game 4 of the Brewers and Dodgers will be that night at 5 p.m. Plus plenty of college ball and NFL football to watch and listen to over the weekend. You can hear it all right here on ESPN Bakersfield. And then join us on Monday, 7 o'clock in the morning to go down everything you guys saw. And we could discuss all the major upsets over the weekend, including USC's major upset over Notre Dame this weekend.
We have a jam-packed week. We got our boy Anthony coming in tomorrow to let us know he's got a temporary location for open mic night. And then tomorrow we'll have Bold Brady making you some money. And then Friday is jam-packed as we'll talk about the Condors with Brian Holt, 7:30. The home opener is this Saturday. Go out there. And then Alejandro at 8, and wrapping up the week with our boy Jason, the voice of the Las Vegas Raiders.
Absolutely. And again, if anybody can get me one of those Leon Draisaitl bobbleheads, I will love you forever, and we'll hook you up with something. I got a T-shirt or something around this place for you. But we need some Draisaitl love in this place. We need some Condors love, some Oilers love in here.
Speaking of love, I saw Jason Kidd got his extension.
I mean, at this point,
they're not saying how long. But they know he's not going to go with the Knicks. That's for sure.
Here's the thing, though. That's the first thing I thought of when this got announced yesterday was this is barely happening now.
Right.
I thought the whole idea was that you were going to keep him for the foreseeable future and you were going to make sure he wasn't going anywhere, Nico. Now we barely hear about the contract extension.
A week
before the season starts.
I'm glad they locked it in. I love Jason Kidd.
I do too, but at the same time,
I would have rather saw him with the Knicks, though.
Yeah, 100%. But again, good move by the Dallas Mavericks. You need to keep this guy around, especially just to build this team, this young core. They're, hoping becomes something, especially with Cooper Flagg. It's a little late, don't you think? Like, it should have happened a while ago. Just it makes me scratch my head. It really, really does.
And prepping for the show, it's this clickbait that they always get me. But Giannis had said, Giannis, I don't want to finish my career in Milwaukee. And I was like, I got to click it. And I open it up. And then, they just say Giannis recently revealed that he, to a Greek sports show, that he wants to finish his career on a Greek team, which I can respect. He said he doesn't want to live in the U.S. after he's done in the NBA, that he wants to play one season in their league and finish off his career playing basketball in his home country.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I'm surprised more athletes from overseas don't do this. It doesn't surprise me at all. But you probably gave every single Bucks fan a heart attack.
Right.
And again, that's the whole point. Like you said, clickbait.
Even just a basketball fan, I was like,
maybe we should start a segment on that. Maybe we start a segment on nothing but clickbait stories that you really shouldn't read into. I think that's a smart one. But yeah, no, this doesn't surprise me at all. And honestly, I kind of agree with you. I like that. I like that thought of him going back to Greece and giving back to his country for 1 year and probably most likely averaging 80 points and winning the MVP over there too.
Well, he did say he wants to finish off his career when he's 36, 37 years old. His current contract with the Bucks is until next season.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. I know there was a lot of talk of him bouncing to a different team this year. It looks like he's going to play out his at least his contract with Milwaukee.
Well, if he says 36, 37, that gives him 6 more years to figure that out. So we'll be all right.
And finally, LeBron was a guest on his wife's podcast, which is called Everybody's Crazy. And LeBron James just opened up about his frustrations with today's social climate, saying everybody is so fake now. Speaking
including
from him, right?
Look, brother, I agree with him. Don't get me wrong. And the bigger, context to this is that he's talking about how people take everything and overanalyze what he says and does. And that I agree with. Don't get me wrong. But You also have to know who you are to everybody. You walked around the first 20 years of your basketball career calling yourself the king. Like, the king gets everything, but he's also the butt of everybody's joke. You know what I mean? Like, when we have a king, everybody's talking about the king. So you can't get mad when everybody's talking about you. And the other thing, just because we have so short a time here, and I thought this was interesting, we just had the cognac ad situation last week. You want to talk about being fake? You're dangling another decision in front of everybody's face, making it seem like it's going to be a free agency decision, just for it to be a cognac ad.
Cognac.
Come on, brother.
Cognac.
And we didn't even get into Aisha Curry too, and her going on that podcast and being just ridiculous. We can get into that tomorrow if we wanted to.
I did want to throw in, I know we don't talk a lot of entertainment, but I did see one. I rarely go on Prime, but I did see there is a new John Candy documentary that looks awesome.
I heard this.
And lastly, I did see a commercial. You know, if you're older and you watch Fear Factor with Joe Rogan.
Yes, sir.
And they're coming out with a new Fear Factor, but hosted by Johnny Knoxville.
Of course it's Johnny.
And I was like, dude, that's perfect.
That is perfect.
I might have to watch that.
It's not going to be the same.
I don't think so.
It's not going to be the same.
I think they've kind of killed the whole thing.
They really did. And honestly, I feel like in today's climate, in today's day and age, you can't do half the stuff they used to.
No, exactly.
Like, you really can't get away with it because you'll get sued for a lot of it, especially forcing people to eat specific gross things. Like, I do feel like somebody's going to say, oh, I didn't know it was this, and then turn around and sue the company. But
I want to see what those waivers look like.
Yeah. But I mean, again, is this further example of Hollywood has no ideas? Because again, we're getting To Catch a Predator with 50 Cent. And now we're getting Fear Factor with Johnny Knoxville. Oh, what kind of backwards world are we living in today? I swear. But that's all we got for you guys today. Join us back here tomorrow, 7 to 9. As always, join us all over social media as well. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch. We're all over the place. Just search the Early Bird Special. Like, share, subscribe with and tell your friends. Hit the button, all that type of good stuff. I don't know what they tell you guys to do these days anymore. YouTube is so different from when I was a child. But we will see you guys tomorrow. Once again, we have a fantastic slate of guests coming the next 2 days. Hope you guys join us. But until then, we got to get out of the way for the great Rich Eisen. Sparky, let's get out of here.